I got married on the same day as my sister, but on the wedding day I didn't see my parents, only a text message from my mother. Maria, we can't make it to your wedding because we're at your sister's wishing you a happy marriage. I deleted the message without changing my expression. If I remember correctly, my sister's wedding venue was just next door to ours, less than 10 minutes to walk between them. Well, my name is Maria and my sister's name is Olivia. Ever since I was little, my parents have told me that I wouldn't exist without my sister, so I should be grateful to her. It's because of her that I came into this world. For as long as I can remember, what I've heard most often is that my sister was originally their only daughter, but when she fell ill at 4 years old and needed a stem cell transplant, they had me to save her. So growing up, I've always been like an invisible person in this family. After I was born, my parents went to take care of my sick older sister, leaving me alone in the hospital room for entire days at a time. I was so hungry I couldn't even cry anymore. It was only when a nurse took pity on me and prepared some formula that I avoided starving to death as a newborn. Not long after, my aunt took me and she acted as my mother for about a year, but shortly after I learned to walk, my aunt discovered she was pregnant with no other choice. She had to send me back. Years later, my aunt told me that if she'd known what would happen, she would never have sent me back. She would have raised me as her own daughter. 3. Because I wasn't valued at home, my parents didn't even think to send me to kindergarten until I was 4 years old. Mom told me dad was very busy with work and she had to pick up and drop off my sister at school every day, so I needed to learn to be independent and walk home alone after school. I knew my parents didn't like me, they only liked my sister, and the kindergarten wasn't far from home anyway, so I obediently agreed. Every morning I went to kindergarten alone, and every afternoon I walked home by myself. But one time there was a heavy rainstorm with strong winds. I was struggling to hold my umbrella against the gale, and wasn't watching the path ahead. When I finally looked up, I realized I was lost. I had no idea where I'd wandered to. The sky was gloomy and the heavy rain blurred my vision. After realizing I was lost, I first tried hard to figure out the direction, but when I couldn't find my way, I became so anxious that I started crying. But the place was too remote, and the rain was falling so hard and fast that no one could hear my sobs or shouts. I found an abandoned cowshed to take shelter from the rain, and after crying for a while, I fell asleep. When I woke up again, I was lying in bed with an 4 drip in my hand. My aunt was sitting by my bedside, and quickly stood up to ask if I was feeling unwell anywhere when she saw I was awake. I stared around but couldn't see my parents anywhere. Noticing my gaze, my aunt patted my head and said, "Be good, Chinua, your parents are too busy to come, but Auntie will stay here with you, okay?" I nodded without saying a word. I actually knew it wasn't that they didn't have time to visit me, they just didn't like me. For my aunt asked if I'd like to stay at her place for a while, I said yes, so after getting my shot, she took me to their home. Auntie had an adorable little sister at home 2 years younger than me named Lily. The moment she saw me, she called me big sister, and even held my hand to show me her toys. I was so happy. It was the first time someone had ever shared these things with me. When I was at home, Mom and Dad would often buy delicious snacks, fun toys, and pretty clothes for my older sister. Every time, I could only watch longingly. There was never anything for me. Sometimes they would tell me they forgot, promising to remember next time, and other times they wouldn't even bother to make excuses for me. I stayed at my aunt's house for a few days. One night I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and accidentally overheard voices in the living room. It sounded like my aunt and uncle were arguing about something. My uncle said, "Why did you have to bring her here? She's eating our food and living under our roof. Do you even remember the year she was born? You raised her for a whole year. Just the formula alone cost us 10 or 20,000 yuan. Did your sister and her husband ever show any gratitude? We wasted all that money for nothing." Auntie's voice was much quieter than Uncle's. "If my sister and her husband want to take care of Chinua, how can I as her aunt just stand by? And that child is still so young. What if something happens that day when she got lost? If I hadn't coincidentally gone to my sister's place and realized she still hadn't come home so late, she would have died out there." Uncle raised his voice. "Her own parents don't care. Why should you?" Auntie kept arguing. "How could you bear to see a child just a few years old die by the roadside?" Standing by the door listening to their quarrel outside, I decided not to go to the bathroom and climbed back into bed instead. I didn't quite understand the rest, but I knew my uncle and aunt were arguing because of me, so the next day I told my aunt I wanted to go home. Although Mom and Dad didn't like me, they still fulfilled their basic responsibilities until I turned 18, like paying for my education and giving me 1 or 2 on pocket money daily. But because I wasn't valued from 1st grade through 6th grade, I only ever received 2 yuan per day in pocket money. It never changed. I would often save up to buy pretty stationery and beautiful books. One time when my sister came home from school shortly before her high school entrance exams, she immediately took a liking to the thick notebook I had saved up for a long time to buy because its cover featured her favorite celebrity. She said to me, "Maria, give that notebook to your sister." I looked at her, making no move to hand it over. My sister frowned, seeming somewhat impatient. "I told you to give it to me, are you deaf?" As she spoke, my sister walked toward me while reaching out as if to snatch the notebook I had placed on the table. I quickly hugged the notebook to my chest, eyeing her warily. "Sis, I saved up for a long time to buy this, don't take it from me." My sister seemed angered by my use of the word take. She scoffed, yanking at my arms that shielded the notebook while scolding me, "You little brat, who taught you to talk to me like that? If I say give it to me, you give it to me, hurry up." My sister was 4 years older than me and much stronger, so it didn't take long for her to pull me off the chair, but I still clung tightly to that notebook, refusing to let go. While slapping my back, my sister tried to snatch the notebook from me. I couldn't take it anymore and bit down hard on her hand. My sister let out a sharp cry, then started hitting me while shouting, "Maria, are you crazy? How dare you bite me? Are you a dog?" or something like, "Go right now." Perhaps my sister's yelling was too loud because it immediately drew our parents' attention from the living room. They pulled us apart, and Mom even gave me a shove. My back hit the leg of the table, the pain making me gasp. Before I could even react, Mom's furious scolding rang out above me. "You little brat, who gave you the nerve to bite your sister? We had you. Because of your sister, instead of being grateful you dare bite her, heartless little thing." With that, she turned to examine the spot where I'd bitten my sister, her face full of concern. Dad comforted my sister while questioning me. "Tell me, why did you bite your sister?" I thought Dad would speak up for me, so I said, "Sister wanted this notebook of mine. I saved up for a long time to buy it. When I refused to give it to her, she hit me, so I bit her." But my sister tearfully told Dad, "I just wanted to look at her notebook. I never expected her to not only refuse me, but also bite me." Dad rushed over to me, snatched the notebook from my hands, and directly gave it to my sister. I heard him say, "If your sister wants it, then give it to her. Not just this notebook. Everything in this house belongs to your sister. She can have whatever she wants. How dare you bite your sister over this? We've raised you for nothing." After saying that, the three of them left the room together, leaving me alone there. From then on, I never took out anything I bought in front of my sister again, because I was afraid something like that would happen once more. Not long after, it was time for my sister's high school entrance exams. Her results weren't ideal. She barely scraped into an ordinary high school. That day, she cried to Mom and Dad, saying she had tried her best, but the test questions were all about things she didn't know. I remember that night Mom and Dad comforted my sister with such pained expressions while I sat alone in my room staring at my report card and the few certificates my teacher had given me at the end of term, lost in thought. During the final semester of 6th grade, the school was holding a parent-teacher conference that required all 6th grade parents to attend. I hesitated for a long time before finally telling Mom and Dad that all 6th grade parents had to go. My mom actually asked me, "You're in 6th grade." I nodded blankly, only for her to reject me the next second. She said both she and Dad were too busy to attend the parent-teacher meeting for me, told me to hold my own meeting, and added that I was grown up now and needed to learn how to be an adult. I bit my lip and returned to my room, forcing myself to keep the tears from falling. I remember a year ago when my older sister needed her parents to attend a middle school parent-teacher conference in her 3rd year. Mom and Dad pushed aside their work just to be there. Turns out they didn't just favor my sister, they loved only her. Because the homeroom teacher insisted that 6th grade parents must attend, I had no choice but to turn to my aunt. Ever since I was 4 years old, I rarely visited my aunt's place to see her. This time, I truly had no other option. I saw Lily again. She's already in 4th grade now. My aunt introduced me to her, and she enthusiastically led me to her room, just like when we were little. I mentioned the parent-teacher meeting to my aunt, and she agreed to it right away. I was more than just grateful to my aunt. When it was time to leave that day, my aunt said to me, "Chinua, your parents." "I know, Annie, I've grown up, now I understand things." This was the first time I'd ever rudely interrupted my aunt. Auntie froze for a moment, then sighed. 10 I got accepted into the best middle school in the city. The day the results came out, my aunt brought Lily to our house, saying it was to celebrate me getting into the best high school in the city. My parents awkwardly greeted my aunt, but she didn't give them a friendly look, only saying she came to give me a gift. Mom and Dad stayed in the living room while my aunt and Lily came to my bedroom. Aunt bought me a smartwatch, saying that since I'd be boarding at middle school, I'd need to keep in touch with home regularly. I was about to say there was no point in contacting my family when Auntie put the smartwatch on me. "Even if you don't talk to them, you should at least keep in touch with your aunt, right? Let me know if you need anything from now on." A wave of bitterness rose in my chest as I bit my lower lip and said, "Thank you, Auntie." 11 During the 2nd semester of 8th grade, I accidentally fell down the stairs and was immediately hospitalized. The teacher called my parents. One phone was switched off, the other went unanswered. I lay on the hospital bed watching my teacher pace anxiously by my bedside, phone in hand. I said to the teacher, "There's no need to call. My parents are very busy." I took out a bank card from my school bag nearby. "There's money in here. Could you please help me pay the medical fees?" I told the teacher the password. After hesitating for a few seconds with the card in hand, the teacher turned and left the ward. That card was given to me by Mom because she didn't want me constantly bothering her for money. She said it contained my living expenses and tuition for all 3 years of middle school, which should be enough to cover these medical bills. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days before returning to school. Other than some difficulty walking due to my foot, I didn't have any other discomfort. Just a few days after being discharged, I received a phone call from Mom. I thought she was calling to check on me after learning about my hospitalization, and I even felt somewhat flattered when answering the call. Who knew the first words from Mom would instantly shatter my fragile composure? Her voice came through the receiver with accusatory sharpness. "Chinua, did you use the money from that card?" Confused, I explained, "Yes, I fell down the stairs at school 2 days ago. I called you and Dad, but you didn't answer, so I..." Mom cut me off sharply, demanding, "Who gave you permission?" I bit my lip, but I sent the money in this card meant for my tuition fees. Besides, I did call you, but you didn't answer. Mom spoke with extreme impatience. "I don't want to hear your excuses. From now on, you must inform me before using any money from this card." With that, she hung up without even asking about my situation. Later, I found out that my sister had gotten into trouble at school for hitting someone and was taken to the police station. The victim's family demanded compensation of 80,000 yuan for medical expenses and emotional distress. Since my sister was about to take the college entrance exams, the school wanted to expel her, so Mom slipped them tens of thousands more. Our family wasn't particularly well off, so Mom thought of the card she'd given me. 12 When my older sister failed the college entrance exam and went to a vocational college, Mom didn't blame her at all. She continued to dote on her, as always comforting her that it was okay. Yet when I passed the high school entrance exam and got into the city's top high school, Mom didn't offer a single word of praise. The night before I left for school, she just said to me, "In 3 more years we won't be obligated to support you anymore." I just felt a chill run down my spine. Fine. That night Mom looked at me strangely for a long time before finally leaving. 3 more years, and I can escape this family. At 13, throughout my 3 years of high school, I never came home except during winter and summer breaks. I only occasionally visited my aunt's house during holidays. Auntie said Lily would soon be taking her high school entrance exams and wanted me to tutor her. I agreed, partly to repay my aunt's kindness and also because I genuinely liked Lily. That day Lily asked me a question. Maria, you're so smart and outstanding. Why don't your parents like you? I didn't speak, but in my heart everything was crystal clear. They didn't love me as their daughter, so of course they wouldn't like me. Olivia was their only real daughter. While I was just a tool born to save Olivia after that incident in 8th grade, I completely understood my place and theirs. 14, I've always been a top student since childhood. When I was little I thought that if I worked hard enough my parents would surely notice me, but I was wrong. Yet now I'm also grateful that I worked hard enough, or else I would have been trapped here forever. I scored well enough in the college entrance exams to get into a top-tier university, where I chose to study management. I never told my parents any of this, not even my exam results. Mom came over and asked me, you finished your college entrance exams, right? I nodded in response. Mom didn't actually want my answer. She just asked that single question before leaving. But I knew exactly what she meant by that. My exams were over, which meant their obligations toward me had come to an end. 15, I've kept those words from 3 years ago close to my heart, so right after finishing my college entrance exams, I found a job that provided room and board I needed to start saving for tuition. 1 week before university started, Mom surprisingly called me, saying she had something to discuss. I even took a day off to go back, wondering what could possibly be important enough for her to personally call me. When Dad opened the door, he looked at me like I was a stranger. I had just reached the entrance hall when I heard my mother's voice from the living room saying, if there's really no other way, we'll just have to take out your younger sister's tuition money first. I was somewhat surprised had they actually set aside college tuition for me. Just as I was thinking this, my mother suddenly called out to me, Chinua, your older sister wants to buy a car. How much do you have saved for tuition? Take it out to help your sister for now. She'll pay you back. My sister sat beside my mother looking at me with the air of a spoiled young lady. I know you've been working to save for tuition. How much have you earned? Take it out to help me for now. I'll pay you back when I'm more financially comfortable. I was so angry I laughed. My tuition money. Why should it be used to buy her a car? Should I just drop out of school then? Mom said something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. What's the rush with your studies? You can take a semester off. Your sister needs the car urgently. You should prioritize her. Hand it over now. Looking at their utterly entitled expressions, I felt numb inside, even finding it absurdly laughable. I owe them, but I don't owe Olivia anything. Never. Have not since we were kids. I stood right at the entrance without even stepping inside. No, she's desperate, but so am I. Dad glared at me. How can you be so inconsiderate of your sister? She urgently needs this money. Can't you let her use it first? Have you forgotten everything we've told you since childhood? I just felt it was utterly ironic. I didn't even want to look at them and turned to leave. 16, after starting university, I began learning to write, selling my manuscripts for money during winter and summer breaks. I worked part-time jobs to save up for tuition, bought myself a new phone, and even saved enough for a computer. By my junior year, I had saved up over 100,000 yuan in my account. I never contacted my family during that time, and they didn't reach out to me either. Every holiday season, I would send money to my aunt, give Lily red envelopes, and occasionally send some to my uncle too. After finishing my postgraduate entrance exams in senior year, I started dating a guy named Paul. He always joked that both our names contained the word Shin, making us a match made in heaven. But only I knew my parents had probably intended to name me Chinua to compliment the moon. My sister was Ryua, like the moon, while I was meant to stand beside her as her complement. What a pity, not only did I fail to compliment her, I ended up becoming my own son. 17, I told Paul about all the hardships I'd endured since childhood and how my parents had treated me. Paul said his heart ached for me and assured me that his parents would love me as their own daughter. I initially thought Paul was joking until our second year of dating, when he took me straight to meet his parents. His parents prepared a lavish meal to welcome me and treated me with overwhelming warmth. Having been treated like an invisible ghost in my own family since childhood, I found Paul's parents' enthusiastic hospitality almost uncomfortable to receive. Paul's mother said to me, "It's alright, let Paul bring you over to our house. More often you'll get used to it with time." Paul chimed in while picking fish bones for me. "Yeah, just let me know whenever you want to come. You must get accustomed before we get married." I agreed with a smile, but a faint unease rose in my heart. When leaving, Paul's mother stuffed a thick red envelope into my hands. I wanted to return it to her, but Paul dragged me away before I could react. He said it's their local custom that when a woman visits the man's family for the first time, the man's family must give her a large red envelope of money. Paul and I walked hand in hand for a while before I finally voiced my concern. "Paul, do your parents know about my family situation? Neither father's love nor mother's care, not even someone who could make decisions for me." Paul nodded. "I told them long ago." My worries must have been written plainly across my face, because Paul suddenly stopped walking, turned me to face him, and spoke with unprecedented seriousness. "Chinua, it's you I want to marry, no matter what your family is like, no matter how your parents treat you, it's always you I want to marry." Then he suddenly pinched my nose and added, "Besides, didn't you say it yourself, you haven't been in contact with your parents for 4 or 5 years. If that's the case, why should you care about them? They can't affect us anyway." I thought about it carefully and realized Paul was actually right. If we haven't spoken in 4 or 5 years, then why should I care about them? 19, I took Paul to my aunt's house. I told Paul that I would have died as a child if it weren't for my aunt. She's been more like a mother to me than my own birth mother. Paul took my words seriously, so on the day of our visit, he carried many gifts, some for my aunt and uncle, and others for Lily. We never expected that before we could even step inside we'd see my aunt seeing my mother out. Mom froze for a few seconds when she saw me, then leaned in to examine my face closely. You are Shinyu. I nodded, slightly hesitating before finally calling out Mom. Mom then shifted her gaze to Paul, studying him for a moment before asking, you have a boyfriend now? I nodded again, the atmosphere growing palpably awkward. My aunt came over and ushered us inside. Seeing that we had arrived, Mom didn't seem inclined to leave anymore and followed us back inside. I introduced Paul to my aunt and my mother. He politely greeted my mom as Annie and did the same for my aunt. My mother kept looking between Paul and me, then asked, why didn't you bring your boyfriend home to meet us? First you came to your aunt's place instead. I remained silent as my mother continued on her own. You wouldn't know your sister got married 2 years ago. Her husband is both handsome and wealthy. What a shame you couldn't attend her wedding. In front of Paul, my mother lavished praise on my sister and her husband before leaving. Auntie sighed helplessly and said to me, after all these years your mother hasn't changed a bit, she'll never be any different. I nodded, then exchanged a glance with Paul. She has always been like this, praising my sister to anyone who would listen. After I started school, I often wondered what exactly was so praiseworthy about my sister enough to warrant 20 years of compliments. 20 Auntie was very pleased with Paul before leaving. She even pulled him aside for a private conversation. On our way back, Paul suddenly said to me, Chinua, let us get married. This sudden statement caught me off guard, but after collecting myself, I still turned Paul down. I told Paul the first wanted to finish graduate school before considering marriage. Paul agreed and apologized, saying he shouldn't have been so abrupt and forgotten to consider my feelings. When I was in my second year of graduate school, at 21, my aunt told me Olivia had gotten divorced and lost a child. Now she was making daily scenes at home, and my mother was consulting my aunt for advice. I transferred 10,000 yuan to my aunt, telling her to go travel if she couldn't stand staying at home anymore, and to ask me for money if she ran out. My aunt was amused by my attitude and immediately video called me. We talked about me and Paul. My aunt said, though I've only met Paul once, I know he is a good kid. You two should settle things as soon as possible. I said we've discussed it and agreed to wait until I graduate with my master's degree before talking about marriage. Auntie nodded approvingly, then told me about my parents' recent financial difficulties. Ever since my older sister got into a fight in high school and had to pay compensation, our family hasn't been as well off as before. Later, Mom and Dad gave all their savings to my sister to buy a car. Now that she is divorced and jobless, living off the family, they're even more strapped for cash. After hearing Annie out, I thought it over carefully and still ended up sending them 20,000 yuan. 22 for over a year. After that, I sent them money every month, sometimes 10,000, sometimes 8,000. When I had more to spare, I'd send over 20,000. Perhaps because of the money, my mother started calling me every few months, showing rare concern for me. She also brought up my sister from time to time, hinting that I should help her out. Each time, I brushed it off. On the day of my graduate school graduation, Paul proposed to me with a huge bouquet of roses at my commencement ceremony. I agreed without any hesitation because with Paul and his parents, I truly felt the warmth of family that I hadn't experienced in over 20 years. Our wedding date was quickly set for the second day of the Mid-Autumn Festival holiday. Since there would be days off during Mid-Autumn Festival and everyone would be reuniting with family on the actual festival day, we chose the second day of the holiday instead. When I told my aunt about it, she surprisingly said, what a coincidence. I let out an off, feeling somewhat puzzled. My aunt told me that my sister had also gotten married on that same day. Turns out after divorcing her ex-husband, my sister had started dating another man, though he was about 10 years older than her. And what a coincidence, her boyfriend happened to be from the very city where I was studying. The venues for our weddings were even close by, just neighboring hotels, and our wedding times were exactly the same. I couldn't help but sigh at how unpredictable life truly is. I still called my parents to tell them about my marriage to Paul and informed them about the wedding time and location. Telling them was one thing, but whether they'd actually come was another matter entirely. My mother said that after attending my sister's wedding, she and my father would definitely make it to mine. I responded with an indifferent "oh," without any expectations. At 24, even while busy preparing for my wedding these past 2 months, I never forgot to send money to my parents. Calculating carefully over this past year or so, I've already sent them over 100,000 yuan in another half year, or so I should have nearly repaid my decade plus of school fees. The day before the wedding, I transferred 5,000 yuan to my sister, considering it her share of the gift money. Last time I didn't know, but now that I'm aware, the money definitely won't be missing. As for whether she'll return it to me, I no longer care. On my wedding day, it was my aunt who walked me down the aisle and personally gave my hand to Paul. After completing all the ceremonies, I went to change into my reception dress. Lily was my bridesmaid. She followed behind me, holding my phone, hesitating to speak. I straightened my clothes and turned to ask her what was wrong. She handed me her phone and said, this is a message from your aunt. I took the phone and saw it was indeed from my mother. Chinua, we can't make it to your sister's wedding, wishing you a happy marriage and a lifetime of happiness with your husband. I wasn't the least bit surprised, expressionless. I deleted the message and walked toward Paul. I don't care anymore whether they come or not, makes no difference to me. I'm not that child who longed for parental love anymore. I'll have a new family and live a very happy life. 26, not long after getting married, I found a job at a large corporation. It took me 2 years to rise from an entry-level employee to the position of marketing director, with my salary jumping up a whole pay grade. I rewarded myself with a car, though I didn't buy it outright. Paul originally wanted to pay for the car in full, but I refused. That night, as I lay in Paul's arms, I asked him, do you want children? Paul shook his head, no rush. I asked aren't your parents in a hurry? Paul stroked my hair and said, let us talk about children after you've settled in at work. I don't want you to feel pressured. Besides, my parents have agreed they're not in a hurry to hold a grandchild. I tightened my grip on Paul's hand. The love, care, and respect I never felt over a decade ago, I found them all in this home. At 27, my aunt told me Lily wanted to try her luck in my city, just hoping I could look after her occasionally, nothing more required. Though she said that I still picked out several company profiles matching Lily's major and sent them to her. Lily even specially treated me to a meal, saying that over these years I've been helping their family and solving many of their financial problems. I smiled and said if it weren't for Auntie's care, when I was little, I would have died long ago. She is practically half a mother to me. Lily told me Mom still often talks about you at home, saying we shouldn't have sent you back to that family, Maria, making you suffer so much. I just smiled. Anyway, I have nothing to do with them. Now I have my own family. 28, I had been sending money to my parents for several years in a row. The month after buying a car, I didn't have much left, so I didn't send them anything. Who knew my mom would actually call to ask why I hadn't transferred the money. I said, Mom, I'm broke. My mom was furious on the phone. Don't lie to me, you're doing so well out there. What's wrong with helping us out a little? We raised you. I stayed silent for a moment. Mom, over these past few years, the money I've sent you, even if it's not 400,000, it's at least 300,000 isn't that enough to repay you for giving birth to me. My mom didn't say anything and simply hung up the phone. I thought the matter was over, but I never expected my parents to show up at my workplace. Afraid they might make a scene, I immediately took them to a nearby cafe. Yet the first thing out of my mother's mouth was that my sister was in trouble, and that I, as her younger sister, needed to step up and help her. She said that while her sister was working at the company, she accidentally leaked their company's proposal to a rival firm, causing them to lose several million. Now the company is suing her, and the court has ordered her sister to repay the company's 700,000. My mother gestured a number in front of me. 500,000. We only need 500,000. Looking at my mother's hand stretched out before me, I couldn't help but find it somewhat laughable. I don't know how my mother managed to say, only 500,000, so casually. I said bluntly, even if you sold me right now, I wouldn't have 500,000. My mother shamelessly replied, then go ask your husband for it. I don't care how you get it, but you must come up with that 500,000. I sneered, if you're so capable, why don't you earn it yourselves? My father slammed the table violently. We gave birth to you. What is wrong with asking you for some money? What is wrong with helping your sister? Let me tell you, if it weren't for your sister, there wouldn't even be an ungrateful wretch like you. The cafe was usually quiet, but my father's sudden table slap instantly drew everyone's attention. I looked at them coldly. I'm the heartless one. When you abandoned me in the hospital room right after I was born, did you ever think you were heartless? When I got lost at age 4, did you even bother to look for me? And when my sister took my things, why was I the one getting scolded? When I was hospitalized in middle school, did you ever think to care? No, your eyes were always on my sister, never on me. With each accusation, I listed my parents' expressions darkened further. After I finished the college entrance exams, you wanted to take the tuition money I earned from working to subsidize my sister's car purchase. Did you ever ask yourselves if you had any conscience? All those emotions bottled up inside me for over a decade completely collapsed at this moment. I thought I would become hysterical, but I didn't. I spoke every word with complete calmness. My parents said nothing, but I could feel the way people around us were looking at them change. I continued, I started sending you money when I was in my first year of graduate school after college, and I kept doing it until this year. I ask you, have you ever spent this much money on me in my entire life? No, you haven't. You love my sister so much, why don't you ask her to support you in your old age? Why do you have to exploit me? I'm a human being too. I've already paid back all the tuition fees you covered, and my living expenses from childhood. What right do you have to demand more money from me to subsidize the sister you've spoiled rotten? My mother was furious at my words. She slammed the table and stood up shouting, because we had you for your sister's sake, you exist to serve your sister. I let out a cold laugh and stood up abruptly, casting a sarcastic glance at the two of them. It's you who live for my sister, isn't it? I declared with utmost arrogance, I, Maria, am no one's appendage, nor am I Olivia S. or your personal ATM. I am my own person. With that, I turned and walked away, paying no further attention to my parents behind me. 29. This was the final break between me and my parents and sister. From that day onward, I never contacted my parents or Olivia again. But in the end, I still transferred them 50,000 yuan, consider it their pension. I've done all I could possibly do. When my aunt found out about this, she called to encourage me, saying I'd done the right thing. Suddenly, I felt an immense weight lift off my shoulders. At 29, almost 30, I got pregnant and gave birth to a boy. Paul named him Eric, with Chun as his nickname. Since I wasn't valued at home, my parents didn't even think to send me to kindergarten until I was 4. When Chun was 2 years old, I took him to visit my aunt. She adored Chun and even said she hoped Lily would give her a grandchild as adorable as him. After dinner, as we were saying goodbye to my aunt and preparing to leave home, a very familiar voice called out to me. It was my mother holding a red envelope. She looked at Chun holding my hand beside me and said, Chinua, why didn't you tell me you had a child? I glanced at my aunt, who gave me a nod. She was the one who had called my mother over. Truth be told, I felt a bit uneasy inside and lightly furrowed my brows. My mother was stuffing a red envelope into Chun's hands while saying, take this gift from Grandma and buy yourself something tasty. For some unknown reason, I could clearly sense that my mother seemed to have changed her nature. I pulled Chun behind me. Thank you, but we're going home now. After saying that, I picked up Chun and got into the car. After bidding farewell to my aunt, we left. I sat in the passenger seat watching my mother's reflection in the rearview mirror for a while. The scars they left in my heart will never fade, and I will never forgive them. From now on, Olivia will truly be their only daughter. I think the current situation is just fine. We each live our own lives, and it's best not to disturb each other. The end.